Hello and welcome back to another episode here of You from the Bullens with myself, Ben Winstanley, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by ex-Everton left-back Luke Garbutt for this one. Luke, thanks for joining me.
No worries, yeah, it's a pleasure to be joining you.
Well, I'm going to try and take you back in time now and rewind you. All them years ago when you obviously signed for Leeds United. Mm-hmm. How was that growing up, obviously playing football as a youngster? Did you know early doors that you're going to make it in football, and how was that getting approached by Leeds?
Well, earlier on in my career, obviously, sort of like 7-year-old, Leeds was renowned for being quite a good academy. So I felt like I was in the best place at that time to be able to learn and obviously become better at my all-round game. But when I was younger, I was mainly just interested in just enjoying the game and just seeing where that took me. My dad was a big influence on me at the time, and it was ultra competitive in the academies. So that kind of built my resilience and always willing to try and get better through that process. So I felt like I could potentially make it, but how many kids do make it is, do you know what I mean? It's very small. So because every kid in the country wants to be a professional footballer, so I feel privileged that I've managed to have a career in the game, and I've enjoyed it.
So that phone call then comes in. Everton Football Club come knocking, which eventually does go to a tribunal. I think it was £600,000, and that a bit of a settlement between the two clubs. What was that like, and how did that happen? How did Everton come knocking? I think we obviously were the Premier League, and Leeds were going through a bit of difficult times. Yeah. How was that at that moment then with Everton coming knocking?
It was a bit of a whirlwind, really, because Leeds obviously were dying to keep me at the time. There was a couple of other clubs that were interested in me. A few agents had come down to my dad's pub. He owns a pub in North Yorkshire, and Newcastle were really, really aggressive with it. They obviously really wanted me, and then I had a coach called Danny Philpott at the time who worked with me at Leeds, and he got a job at Everton. And through that kind of connection and keeping in touch with him, that kind of swayed my decision to kind of join Everton. And obviously, loving football, I know Everton youth system and the way they kind of bring youth players through to the first team at the time, especially under David Moyes. I think it was a no-brainer at the time. Like you alluded to, Leeds were going through a little bit of a troubled situation. It was not intentional for me to leave because I loved Leeds at the time and I enjoyed myself massively there. But obviously to further my career and try and become the best player I wanted to be, I felt like Everton was the best fit for me.
How was it as such you're a young lad, obviously you're local to Harrogate, and obviously then obviously moving to Merseyside. Mm-hmm. Did your whole school network come with you? How did that, for these kids that are out there at academies now, clubs come in for them all the time, it must have been such a scary time for you, a young lad coming up to Merseyside. How was that, to familiarise yourself with the area?
It's funny you say that because from a young age, I'd played for England at under 16 level. So like through sort of like at 14, 15, I'd gone into situations that are like difficult for a person of that age, especially where I came from and where I was brought up. It's totally different to here.
Not at all.
But obviously that's now me looking back, being a lot more mature and kind of seeing it from that situation, thinking, how did I manage to do that type thing? But I don't know, it was just like I alluded to before, a little bit of a whirlwind. I just kind of tried to take it in my stride. There's a couple of things that happened that made me grow up quickly, especially when I first signed for Everton. I was in Diggs, so there's a lodge just down the road in Crosby, Waterloo actually, and there was like 12 of us living in a house, and a couple called Paul and Bev who obviously looked after us through the club. I'll never forget it. I signed, and on my first day, I've obviously like put all my stuff in the bedroom, whatever, and I've come down for dinner, and I've come back up after my dinner, and my whole bedroom's just like flipped upside down. So like obviously that was one of the rules, like don't ever leave your bedroom unlocked, because like lads will just go in and just tip your room. So you know, I had to learn quickly about that and just be a little bit more savvy about the place. Like so, yeah, it's all stuff that I look back on now and just think unbelievable memories. Like my youth team days at Everton, just like were priceless, really, to be honest.
Yeah, dressing room banter definitely, obviously, in play there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about then the early stages at Everton. Obviously, a few years in the academy, and you got sent out on loan initially. Mm-hmm. Was that always part of the plan? Was David Moyes an influence of that? Because it was a bit different back then. There was no like director of football. Mm-hmm. There was no loans managers. It was all very much youth football, men's football, wasn't it? So was that the plan? Was David Moyes influential on that?
Not really, no. I think with the price tag that they paid for me, there was always kind of a little bit of a different vibe about the way I was going about things. Listen, like, I think they wanted to kind of fast track me into the first team, but it was difficult, especially the first couple of years, settling in, new environment, new club, new way of doing things. You know, at times I struggled a little bit, and I felt a little bit pressured at times with the price tag a little bit. So maybe that loan kind of was the best part of my development in terms of growing me into like a man, as it were. So it was never planned to go out on loan like that. It just kind of materialised, and I tried to use it to my advantage, really.
Your first game then, I've had a little research. So if it was Leighton Orient in the League Cup. Mm-hmm. How was that then, obviously preparing? I think you come on as a second half substitute. Yeah. How was that then coming on in the Cup for Everton? How did that make you feel?
At the time, like, obviously you're training a few times with the first team and whatever. That they're more kind of like nerve-wracking moments, because if you're not with the first team every day and then all of a sudden you just get flung into that situation, and there's a lot of experienced, you know, top pros at the time in the squad, and obviously with the skipper being Phil Neville, like there's no better example of how to become a professional footballer and standards, etc. So you felt that pressure straight away. As soon as you were up with the first team, your standards had to be better. You had to be sharper in everything that you did. So from that point of view, I felt more pressure trying to like impress them in training than I did kind of coming on in the second half in the League Cup. It was just like, right, try and make an impact. Make sure the manager looks at you and goes, right, he's got a chance type thing. So reflecting on it, it was more the training side to it day to day was more nerve-wracking than the actual game itself.
Yeah, definitely. Let's touch on the training then. Obviously, like you quite rightly said, there was quite a big dressing room then. Everton were doing okay under David Moyes. You know, that was probably the most stable we've been in a number of years.
It was stable. It was, you know, it was kind of like you knew what you were going to get. They were all solid pros. Like there was some top quality in there as well. So, like you said, it was hard in training to kind of stamp your authority on it. Being a young player, you know, you need the first teamers to be looking at you and going, yeah, I think this kid's got half a chance.
Who stood out in training then? Who was the top quality in that mould when you first went in?
I think like it's not going to sound, I don't think it sounds cliche to say it, but like obviously because he's in my position and I played with him for like a long time, I just felt like Bainesy was just unbelievable. Him and Pienaar, like in training, you could just see the link up straight away. It was like telepathic, the way they kind of linked up. It was just unbelievable. And yeah, it was obviously someone I looked up to because he was in my position. But I would say they were the two kind of standouts. But then, like I touched on, Phil Neville, it was more his mentality and the way he would go about training and kind of like push the youngsters on in terms of like, right, you should be doing this. Why aren't you doing this? All this type of thing. And then there was obviously a few occasions that I trained with Arteta and he was just like another level.
Yeah.
But he left when I was quite young, so I didn't really get to train as much with him as I did Pienaar and Baines. So they were the two kind of standouts for me. And then later on, playing with the likes of Samuel Eto'o was just like, this is like a proper superstar, you know what I mean? So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, we'll probably come back to that season a bit later on in the podcast. But let's focus. You've mentioned Leighton Baines, obviously an absolute Everton hero. You know, his shirt hanging up on the wall there. One of my heroes growing up. You know, what a professional, what a player. Absolutely, probably one of the best left backs the Premier League's ever seen. Yeah. And here you are as a youngster trying to knock him off his perch. In essence. You spoke about him there at length, you know, how unbelievable he was. Did he take you under his wing and did he provide advice? How was that as a player, looking up to someone like him and learning from him?
I think Leighton was a little bit like, his form of leadership was actions, what he did on the pitch, and his kind of durability. So like young players like myself would look up to him and be like, wow, he plays every minute of every game. He's probably arguably in the top 3 players every single time he puts the shirt on. And you know you can rely on him because he's not going to get injured. His quality is second to none. And obviously he's a down-to-earth guy. So he did tick a lot of boxes for young lads coming up to the first team. So like you said, it was kind of difficult to kind of knock him off his perch, but it made me a better player. And I feel like a lot of his qualities I had as well. So like we were kind of similar players in that respect, with how I kind of played and how he played. So it made me feel, I don't know, like obviously it made me feel like it was kind of harder for me to get into the team because I had similar qualities to him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as if I was fighting out with the left back that's, you know, just an out-and-out defender and just going to do the job for the team. You know, he would score and assist and take penalties and free kicks. So he was a massive asset to the team.
Yeah, absolute model pro, wasn't he? Absolutely unbelievable player. Obviously then, Roberto Martinez comes in. David Moyes leaves to go off to other adventures and Roberto Martinez comes in. Takes a big shine to you, of course. How was he, and was there a difference in approach between the managers, between David Moyes and Roberto Martinez?
I think in terms of the two, like David Moyes was more towards my younger stages at Everton, so like I didn't really feel the impact from him as much. And I had a couple of loans at the time through David's time at the club, so I didn't really get to train as much with him and see the day-to-day running of how he would manage the team, etc. Whereas under Martinez, I'd had a couple of loans, they went really, really well, and he decided to take me on in the first team and train regularly with them, and then that's when things started to really kick on for myself. So there were two totally different experiences, really. And that's nothing against David Moyes at all. It was just how my career had panned out at the time. So from that point of view, I can't really comment on my time with David Moyes to Roberto Martinez because it's a totally different ball game, you know what I mean? So yeah.
So obviously that season then you started to obviously play a lot more. I think that the games that stand out for me, obviously, I think it was Wolfsburg away, and then obviously the two young boys, the last 16. How was it then playing in obviously Europe for Everton, the Goodison Park atmospheres, you know, the European night that we haven't seen for so long? How was that, and was that a bit different of a pressure than just playing in the Premier League?
I think there was. I can't comment for now what the club's going through now, but at the time when I was integrating myself into the first team, the whole buzz around the place there was just a different vibe. The way we were training, the way we were playing football. I think that season we got the record number of points, and we were playing in Europe as well. and it was just the way we were going about things it was just different. We felt as a squad, I think at the time, that we weren't far away from being a Champions League team. Definitely the way we were playing in the league, and with the consistency and the approach in training, was like top draw. I don't know, you just had a feeling like every day, waking up and just thinking, yeah, I can't wait to train today. And that was the kind of vibe that I got. Obviously, I was getting a lot more chances in the Europa League. I did well in the domestic cups as well. And, you know, I was kind of itching to play more minutes in the Premier League. I felt like every time I was on the pitch, I was one of the better players in the team. So, you know, it obviously was really, really difficult because, like we've just touched on before, you know, Bainesy's a legend of the football club, and it was always going to be hard for me at such a young age to be able to kind of dislodge him and play regularly in the team. But I felt like it was going really, really well for me at the time. I was playing well. I was like sky high on confidence, and it was just unbelievable to be at the club at the time, especially the Wolfsburg game. I remember it like it was yesterday. Like the manager said to me the day before, right, I'm going to play you tomorrow. I feel like it's the right thing for you and your development. Best of luck. I believe in you, type thing. And that just gave me like loads and loads of confidence. And obviously to win 2-0 and get a clean sheet, to be up against De Bruyne as well, it was just like, I don't know, it was just surreal, like. And to see all the Evertonians there as well, there was just like loads of them there in that corner. It was magical, like, to be fair.
Yeah, it definitely was, and it, you know, we're so far away from where we were back then. And you know, I echo your thoughts. Everyone, all the Everton fans at that moment were thinking, we found the next Leighton Baines. You know, we've got him. We've got the next 10, 15 years of a solid left back, and ultimately, it didn't really work out after that. And you know, all these podcasts, you know, the good times, the Wolfsbergs, the young boys and stuff. You know, as a fan, you were going, like I touched on before, here we go. You know, Luke Garbutt, he's going to be flying. And then somehow, somewhere, it just didn't work out. You know, was there a particular time or moment, or, you know, what happened? Where did it go wrong?
So, obviously, that season, everything was going to plan. The journey was on an upward kind of trajectory. My contract was coming to an end that season, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the background. I just kind of like passed it off and just kind of wanted to focus on playing as well as I could whenever I got the opportunity. But looking back at it now, there was just a lot of like, I don't know whether I can swear on the podcast.
Yeah, of course you can.
There's just a lot of shit going on. I was in between agents. My dad was going in, meeting with Everton about my contract, and they wanted to give me a 5-year deal, which I was happy to do. And all this, that and the other. So I was in between representatives at the time, I was getting lawyers, whatever. And I couldn't agree a deal. So we were like 3 or 4 months into negotiations or whatever. And the manager pulled me one day in training and was just like, because you've not committed your future to the club, like, I'm not going to play you. So Bainesy got injured the last couple of games of the season. So I was like, oh, quid's in it, I'm going to play. And I remember we were training on the Thursday. We had West Ham away on the Saturday or the Sunday. I can't remember which one it was. And that's when Brendan made his first start, Galloway.
Yeah.
But like, I was just sat there fuming, thinking, this is mad. This, like, I thought I was going to play. But obviously the manager was reluctant to play me because we hadn't sorted out a deal. So I was like, all right, then that's fine, whatever. So I got selected for the under-21s in the Euros, still negotiating a new deal, managed to sort out my agent or whatever. He sorted the deal, agreed everything, and I had a loan deal to Bournemouth, like, signed, and they'd just got promoted to the Premier League at that point. So I met with Eddie Howe. It was all done, signed, So I'm buzzing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm playing for the 21s.
League, yeah.
I'm going to go into the Premier League, have a fresh start. Boom, right. Going to prove to, obviously, Martinez that I can play a bunch of games in the Premier League, and then we can kick on from there. So it gets back from the Euros with England, and I get a call off my agent, and he's like, "You won't believe this, Garbs. Like, they've scuppered the deal and gone and signed Tyrone Mings for £5 million." I'm just like, what? Because Bournemouth flew out to our camp for me to sign. Everton's flew out.
Yeah.
And I'd signed all the papers. So to me, I'm just like, yeah, right, I'm flying.
Done,
yeah. Done. And so like my agent's fuming, and then Bill Kenwright got on the phone and was just absolutely fuming with it, saying what's going on here. So like it was just a whirlwind of stuff. Like my head was all over the place because I was just thinking, right, I'm signing this deal, like I'm buzzing because I obviously wanted to play for Everton for the longer term.
Yeah.
But for the short term, going out and getting the experience in the Premier League, it was like what stuff for dreams are made of type thing. So that just got absolutely kiboshed. And then a couple of weeks later, I'd signed for Fulham because Fulham were dying to do it as well, but they were in the Championship. So I kind of like was umming and ahhing whether to do it or just stay and kind of fight for my place at Everton. And I decided to sign for Fulham because I was itching to play. Didn't feel like I was going to get the game time I wanted at the time. And looking back at it now, you know, I'm a 21-year-old player. I played through all the England age groups. Like, I'm up against one of England's best left backs. Like, you need to just kind of pipe down a little bit and just kind of bide the time. And things probably would have worked out better in the long run. But, like, you can't think like that as a player. You're selfish. You want to be the best you can be. You want to play as many games as you can. So I was just in that mode of just like, everything's going right for me at the moment. I just want to keep that going. And it all just kind of like blew up in my face, and I just went, right, I'll sign for Fulham. It's London. It'll be, you know, sick lifestyle, etc., etc. Good club. Probably going to get back up into the Premier League. And that's kind of where it all kind of started going wrong for me. So went down there, was training well, had Crystal Palace last game of pre-season, was up against Zaha, went to block a cross, done my ankle, was out for 9 weeks. So that was the first 9 weeks done. They went and signed another left back. He started doing really, really well. Came back off my injury, then done something else for like a few weeks. But then I was in and out of the team, wasn't playing very well. My head was gone. Because I think subconsciously in the back of my mind, I was thinking, when I'm back fit, I'm just going to get back in the team and it'll be sound type thing. And obviously in the back of my head, I was thinking, I just can't believe I'm here when I could be in Bournemouth playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But thinking at the time, you're just thinking, right, I'm going to play, and it's going to be sound. But it just didn't work like that. And obviously your confidence gets knocked a little bit, and all those doubts start creeping in a little bit. And because I'm still a young player at the time, I didn't know how to deal with that. So I think your natural reaction is to just be fuming all the time.
Yeah.
So that's what I was. I didn't really enjoy my time at Fulham at all, which is disappointing in the end because looking back at it, it's a brilliant club. You know, I was living in southwest London. It's probably the best
place to live,
best part of the UK to live. And it's disappointing, and I had to kind of, over the next few years, kind of like get a hold of myself and try and resurrect my career a little bit. Ronald Koeman came in. He wasn't having me at all. He was crazy, him. He was just like so abrupt up front. I'll never forget it. Like,
we had Jimmy Martin on last week, and he said didn't like Ronald Koeman at all.
I mean, listen, he's an absolute icon of the game. Like, he's a legend, obviously. But that obviously doesn't kind of advocate for like his man management of players or whatever. Never forget the first day he came in. He was like, "Don't want to be called gaffer. I'm coach." So all that, I was like, "Okay then, sound." But like, it was just in a tone that it was just like, no, I'm not getting called gaffer. I'm coach. And then went to Austria, went there for a week. You know, did well enough. Got off the coach, got my stuff. He pulls me as everyone's getting off the coach, and he's like, right, Garbutt, you with the 23s. All the internationals are coming back next week. You're not with us anymore. See you later, bye. And I was like, whoa. And it kind of just hit me for six, you know what I mean? I was just like, wow. Because I thought, right, okay, the loan's not particularly gone well, but if I can kick on in pre-season, try and impress him, you know, you never know where that might take me. So that kind of like put me back down to square one again. And then I managed to go on loan to Wigan because I had a few weeks with the 23s just training, get myself fit, ready for the season. And he pulls me into his office, Koeman, and said, we've got a Dutch First Division team that want you on loan. And at the time I was like, nah, not for me, that. I'm not going to Holland. Like, the league's pretty shit apart from two teams. Like, I'm not going there. Again, like, you know, you're young, you're just thinking, nah, I'm not going Holland.
Yeah.
Like, why are you sending me there? So I was on to my phone to my agent saying, listen, like, he wants me to go here. I don't want to go there. We've got Wigan pretty much nailed. Shall I just do that? And he was like, it's up to you what you want to do. But I feel like the Championship's more competitive. It's probably better for your development. So I was like, right, okay. Because obviously I was living in Liverpool at the time. It's close.
Up the road,
It's up the road, you know what I mean? So it's better for life balance. So I was like, right, okay. Anyways, that turns out to be an absolute disaster. Gets there, Warnock's in front of me. Play my first game against Forest, get absolutely ripped by that Burke at the time. It was like unbelievable at Forest.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, what's
Before
going on here?
Move.
Yeah. So, and then he gets a move for 15 million
15 million, yeah.
to
Leipzig,
yeah. And then I'll never forget it. I was playing right back against Newcastle that season when
they won the league.
When they won the league.
Yeah.
And I played a ball inside and literally just like turned off to sprint down the line, and my back's just gone, and I've literally just collapsed on the floor. So I was out for like 2 or 3 months there. Cancelled my loan in the Jan, so I'm back to square one, thinking, right, I've only played like 8 games there. And at the time that I'd done my back, I was actually starting to kind of find a little bit of form. I was doing all right, and they'd sacked Gary Caldwell a month or so before. New manager came in. He started to like me a little bit. And then it all just blew up in my face again. So I was like, right, okay, let's just start again. So goes back to Everton, plays with the 23s until the end of that season. There was a few sniffs on loan, but I just felt like because of my back and stuff, I wasn't fully ready for that right now. And then in that summer, I think that's when I went to Oxford. I felt like, right, I needed to kind of regroup.
Yeah.
It's been a turbulent couple of seasons. Yeah. You know, I still had time left on my contract at Everton. I knew it was half a little bit in the balance at that time because things hadn't worked out at all for 2 seasons. So I was thinking to myself, you know, all I want to do is play, try and, you know, fulfill my potential, what I was doing up until a couple of years previous. But that's football. Looking back at it now, like, it never really quite worked out because I'd always had that contract in the background.
Yeah.
Was it a little bit of a safety net? Was I just like going, right, well, I'll just pick this loan and that'll do or whatever. And not kind of like ironing out like a proper home and being like, right, this is where I'm going to kickstart my career and then try and get back up.
Because you had that contract at Everton.
Yeah. So maybe that kind of did hold me back a little bit, but it is what it is. It's happened. But the Oxford situation, again, was a little bit turbulent the first 6 months. Was in and out of the team, got injured a little bit, but then he played me midfield for the second half of the season. Was flying, played the last 12 games,
Yeah, I remember you scoring quite a few goals.
Scored a few goals.
Yeah.
Started playing well again. Started getting the bug and the feeling back again. And then the one kind of loan through that period that was brilliant for me was Ipswich. So I went down there thinking, Paul Lambert, he's a little bit of like, I don't know, like he's obviously a big name. He's won the Champions League. Like, you know, I didn't know where I was going to stand with him, but he loved me. So that was like a brilliant season for me personally, and it obviously kind of got cut short because of COVID in the March. But for me personally, it was like a season that I really needed to have. Loved it down there, massive club, getting 20,000 in League One, like it was unreal. I felt like a proper part of the team. Loved every minute of it, to be fair. And that kind of gave me like that kind of reset that I wanted. So then my contract was coming to the end at Everton in the summer. I was wanting to sign for Ipswich, but the Sunderland wanted me. So I was like, right, two of the biggest clubs in League One. What do I do here type thing? So I meet up with Phil Parkinson at the time, the Sunderland manager. Liked what he had to say. Things were a little bit up in the air with the Ipswich thing. Like, I played well for them. They wanted me, but they were a little bit like half palming it off a little bit.
Not press and go like, straight away.
What's going on
what
here?
Are you waiting for? Yeah.
And they were like, listen, we can't really compete with Sunderland. I was like, well, if you really want me, you can, type thing. So anyway, I think I had a little think, and then I kind of went towards the direction of Sunderland. So I was like to Parky, right, I'll sign for you, blah, blah, blah. Got everything sorted. And the COVID hit and the wage cap comes in.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm in the middle of negotiations and the wage cap comes in. And my agent was saying to me, nah, don't worry about it, won't come in. And it did.
It did, yeah.
So then that deal just got absolutely kiboshed. So I was just like, oh my God, what do I do here? So I'm just like running down here on the Strava for like a few weeks, just like twiddling my thumbs, thinking what's going on here, because that deal's gone. They're saying to me, oh, you can come in and train and do whatever. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I'm just sat there doing whatever. And then my brother-in-law, who's actually at Bayern Munich at the moment, coaching, Anthony Barry, his name is, he knows one of the coaches at Blackpool. So he has a discussion with him, and then they say, oh, yeah, we like him. Does he want to come? So I met up with Neil Critchley, and it was just like literally as soon as I met him, I was like...
Signing, yeah.
Yeah, I'm signing for you. And that season was like brilliant. It didn't get off to the best of starts. Like I played my first game, pulled my hamstring, like, but after that, after I got over that, started working with people outside the club. It was just literally, we just skyrocketed through the division, and then got promoted, and it was just unbelievable. He was just another coach that was like top draw, tactically unbelievable. Knows how to set up a team, and I really enjoyed my time at Blackpool in that season. So yeah, it was an up and down kind of, and that's how it kind of fizzled out at Everton, because I was up here and then I was down literally within the space of like 6 months. And I think on reflection, it took a lot of getting over.
Yeah,
because I felt like what you kind of alluded to 10 minutes ago, that a lot of Evertonians at the time felt like, yeah, Garbutt's here to stay. Like, he's going to be an understudy to Baines, and eventually he'll start playing because he's good enough, blah, 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 blah. And then it all just kind of blew up in my face, and it just faded away a little bit. So it was hard to take, to be honest. And listen, that's football.
Yeah.
You know, there's thousands of players out there who've probably had similar situations to me, and say, like, if things could have been different or whatever, I can't kind of like, I've got to take it on the chin, which I have done. You know, I'm older now, and I can realise that, you know, just things didn't quite work out. But you know, my journey's my journey, and I've enjoyed it. There's been some really, really tough moments, but yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, you've summarised it very well. I think I actually remember when Martinez played Brendan Galloway, and I remember everyone on the terrace going, what the hell is going on here? Like, where's Luke Garbutt? You know, he's there. You know, now you've spoken about it, the transparency is absolutely there. And I think obviously summarising what you've said there, it's just, you went away when Everton suddenly went into like this turmoil. You signed this contract. Yeah. There was managers coming in. You know, Martinez was there, Koeman, Allardyce, Marco Silva, and even Carlo Ancelotti, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about that Carlo Ancelotti incident. Then I think you were on loan at Blackpool at the time.
Yeah.
And then he was asked in a press conference, wasn't he? You know, what's the plans with Luke Garbutt? And he said, who? Yeah, we've got to touch about that on the podcast.
No, of course, because it went viral. Yeah, obviously, I knew that question was going to come up. I mean, like, to be fair to him, he wouldn't know who I was because I was getting phased out of the club anyway. My contract was coming to an end. I was about to sign for Blackpool. I was on loan at Ipswich at the time. And he literally just got interviewed and he wouldn't even know who I was because there probably would have been like, I don't know, 15 other players out on loan at the time that he probably didn't know. But obviously, because my contract was coming to an end, I'd been at the club for ages. They thought that he might have been kind of like told who I was or whatever. And obviously, for him to, with his facial expressions the way they are, it was just like hilarious at the time, wasn't it? So like, when I first seen it, I was a little bit fuming, but then I was like, nah, it's quite funny actually. So like, I just chose to kind of take it for what it is, do you know what I mean? And just
I remember your tweet you did back.
So yeah, that and then it just went viral. So like everyone knows about that, which is funny, like, to be fair. But it is what it is. But going back to like all the managers, there was like 5 or 6 managers in that time. So like there was no consistency at the club at the time. So for me, it was like I knew it was like not going to happen. But then there was just like little hints here and there. So like Sam Allardyce came in and I started training with the first team again. And I thought like I was finished. And then I started getting reintegrated into the team. I was training a lot more, boom. And then there was a few rumblings he was going to give me a chance in the FA Cup, I think it was, in the Jan. So I'd put off a few loans or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm going to give it a go. And we played like a bounce game, and I was up against Walcott, and he's just absolutely ripped me. And then because I was in the team, I was actually in the lineup, and so then I've just gone, oh my god, like just defend against Walcott, and you like don't like make a show of yourself, just like kind of defend how you know you can, and then do the things that you do going forward and that. So like, I didn't do that. I just got ripped, and he decided to put Cuco Martina in there, and I was just like, how is he playing in front of me? Yeah. Like, no disrespect to him, yeah, but he's not a left back. He's a right
back, yeah.
Top lad, like, he's sound, but like, come on. So then I was just like, this is mad, this. Because I've been training well, get myself back into the rhythm of things. And then that happened. Which was just like disappointing. And then that was kind of that season. I got the bench a couple of times, but only because of like injuries, etc. And then that was my last kind of involvement with the first team.
Yeah, do you know what you talked about before? It is interesting, isn't it? You did get that 5-year deal at Everton, obviously. You know, you talked about a safety net, and that is, you know, great honesty from yourself, because you know you're always thinking of that contingency. I can just go back to Everton, you know, and you know, you saying that now.
I'm talking about like as a player's subconscious.
Yeah, that's what in the back of the mind.
You're always looking to play.
Yeah,
and you want to be the best you can be.
Definitely.
But then when maybe something doesn't go quite right, you're like, well, I've got that in the background. I could just go back there. I've got 3 years left on my deal. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you're probably always at your best as a player when you're on the edge and you're thinking, where's my next move? What have I got to do here? Is there someone better in front of me that I've got to play better than?
Yeah.
I haven't got a security net of like 3-4 years left on my deal. I might only have a year left on my deal. So where do I go from there if I don't do this? And obviously through your life in football, as you grow up, like I tried to touch on at the start of the podcast, when you're a youngster at Leeds and you're just a little kid, and there's thousands of other kids that want to play in the academy, there's no other way than to be competitive and try and be the best you can be, because you'll just get released. You know what I mean? And there's no contracts. There's no safety net of like 3-4 year contracts.
If you get injured, you're gone, aren't you?
Yeah, you're gone. Yeah. So like, that's what was like probably a burning driver in me, is like, right, well, I've got to, you know, when I first started, I was at the bottom of the group. So like, I was on the edge of probably getting released. And then like, certain things happened. My dad was a huge influence on that. He would drive me every day to be, you know, whoever's the top in the group, you've got to beat him, no matter whether it was running, don't know, like 1v1s, whatever it was. You got to pass the ball better than him. You got to run better than whatever it might be. And gradually through that mentality, you just go up. And going back to when I'm older and I've got that reward of a 5-year deal at a Premier League club, and you go, fuck me, I've smashed it. Like, you've only just started, lad. Do you know what I mean? Like, you haven't. No, but it's difficult to think like that at the time.
Would you say something to your older self now if you had the chance? And what would it be if you would?
Yeah, I obviously would. I would say, like, you've got this contract. Now, can you get the next 5-year contract? Not sit on your laurels a little bit and go, right, well, I can go to Fulham because it's the champ. It'll be easy for me to play in that team. I'll get in the team because they wanted me. Like, there's just subconsciously, there's a kind of a different mentality. As to before, I was always fighting to get up into the first team at Everton. Never knew where I stood. Was never in a comfort zone. That's the one thing I take out of Everton, is in my whole time there, when I signed from 16 to the day I left, there was never a time where I felt like I was in a comfort zone. I always felt like I have to prove this to this coach or this manager or this guy. All right, when I went on loan, it was different. Yeah. Because you're out of that bubble. You're out of Everton bubble. But there was always just a different vibe when I went back to Everton. It was like, right, what do I need to do to impress him? Or I don't think he quite likes me. Or, you know, he's not aggressive, or he doesn't stop enough crosses, or he's only bothered about going forward and crossing the ball, or whatever he's doing. So I was always on edge. Yeah. And that's probably where you play your best football, because you're always thinking, I need to improve, I need to prove this guy wrong. So going back to your point, I think telling my older self to just constantly be hungry for the next contract, in terms of, can I play this amount of games, and then if I do well here, then the rewards will come. Don't sit back on what you've achieved in terms of a contract, because that means nothing. But obviously when you're younger, everything kind of plays a part, doesn't it? Because the more success you have, or the bigger contracts you have, you know, you get a better lifestyle outside of football, etc. And that can kind of put you in a bit of a comfort zone as well. So yeah, obviously it's a little bit disappointing that it didn't quite work out, but yeah, to try to have a career in football, you're gonna get lots of downs as well as ups. Yeah, definitely. And that's part and parcel of the sport, of the game. Yeah. You know, you're not gonna get a Gary Neville or a Jamie Carragher career very often, where they stay at their hometown club and be successful, play 700 odd games and win Premier League titles. Like, that's the fairy tale. The reality of it is you have to work your balls off every single day, because some other lad is going to fucking take your position. Like, if you don't do it. So, you know, it's a brutal sport, but it's the best sport in the world. You don't know how brutal it is until you're actually inside it. But because supporters come, support their team and think it's the best sport in the world, which it is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of shit inside it that you have to battle against a lot.
And you know, obviously this is, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But obviously during this 5 years, mental health wasn't, it wasn't as big as it is now. It wasn't talked about as much. And, I can see it now, like you can see it in your eyes that that there is some regrets there. Like, and you obviously have been through such difficult times with injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm intruding, just tell me to F off. But, was it difficult at times, being away, being on loan?
Yeah.
Like mentally, did it affect you?
Oh, yeah. It's a bit weird, really. Like, I was on loan at Oxford, and I remember it like it was yesterday. So I played New Year's Day, I think it was. We had Plymouth away, and Carl Robinson was the manager at the time, and he dragged me at half time. So I'm like, oh, fuck's sake. Didn't play very well. It is what it is. You get dragged, sound. We got absolutely battered that game. Anyways, he has like meetings with like loads of other players because it wasn't going very well for the team in general at the time. Anyways, I have a meeting with him, and it's just me, and he had a psychologist in at the time who came in as like consultancy work every Thursday or whatever. So it was me, him, Sean Derry, I think at the time, one of his assistants, in his office, and he sat me down and he just went, Garbs, I just want us to have an open and honest and brutal chat, because this is not the player that I know is in there. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I just broke down, and I was like, this is like too much. And we had open and honest conversations, and it was the best thing I've probably done. And he got to see my raw emotions about how I feel about where my career was going at the time. And it was just proper hard. Because, like I just touched on, you're on this like pedestal, like you got a 5-year deal, you're playing England 21s, you're the next best thing or whatever, you're competing with Luke Shaw, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, you just lost. You're in like this fog of like, my career's going downhill. Like, I don't know where I'm going to end up. I can't even get in the Oxford team. Like, this is heavy, this. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, we just had that meeting, and then it all just, I don't know, it just, like, was a weight lifted off my shoulders that I'd kind of, like, confided in him a little bit. Started using the psychologist a little bit more. And that's probably another thing that I would advise young lads who are coming through football is, like, don't be playing the hard knocker like, nah, it's fine. If I get dropped, it's the coach's fault, whatever. Like, it'll play on your mind. Do you know what I mean? So using a sports psychologist, I think, is massive in the game. So I started using him and gradually kind of built, I don't know, like a defense mechanism in terms of like being more resilient, or building my confidence back up again. And then that's when I started to have that little bit of a good spell towards the end of the season, the 10, 15 games. Tried me out in a new position, and it was good. But to touch on your point, it does affect you massively. Like, you can mask it all you want, but there is players out there who are struggling. Because everyone sees it as the best sport ever, and they all want to play it, and it's all like, don't know, like it's put on this pedestal, but it's difficult if things don't go your way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I was really.
Yeah, it's absolutely commendable to touch on that story, because obviously everyone from like a fan looking in, you go, oh, they're living the best life. They're doing this. They've, driving nice cars. Playing football, every lad's dream. But the harsh reality is the competitiveness. everything that goes with football, the stress, the getting hounded by people like the press, everything must just go absolutely batter people's heads. So, commendable for coming on here and speaking to us and obviously talking about, especially for the youngsters that sign up to the channel that were watching this video. If you can take anything away from this podcast is obviously if you are into like any type of sport, it's obviously listen to what Garbs has said and go and talk to people if you are struggling, if it is in your head, or use a sports psychologist.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong, like you have to put it in context as well. Like I'm struggling in the bubble of football.
Yeah.
So the outside world, fuck me, like I'm in the most privileged position ever.
Yeah.
People would look at me and go, "Come on, get a fucking grip." Like you're struggling on because your career's going a little bit downhill or whatever, but you've achieved loads of stuff and you've got all this houses, cars, whatever it may be. Like there's well worse things happening in the world. I understand that.
Yeah.
You understand that. But just in my career and in the football bubble,
yeah,
I'm just trying to kind of articulate what it's like to be a player and things not go quite right.
Yeah.
In that industry.
Yeah.
So not in the world per se. Because there's, it's the world's a tough place, you know what I mean? Like there's going to be people far worse off than me. So like, I just wanted to kind of touch that point that it's not like me saying, oh yeah, I'm hard done by or whatever. Like,
yeah,
that's football. That's how it goes. It's a cutthroat business. You either sink or swim type mentality. Definitely, you know what I mean? So they're just my little journeys that I've been on, and it's obviously made me a stronger person. I can come out here today and just say my piece, and that's it basically.
No, I really appreciate that. And obviously, some quick fire questions for you in relation to obviously even your whole career. Mm-hmm. Favorite manager or best manager you worked under?
Yeah, it's got to be Roberto Martinez for me. Yeah.
Best player you've played with?
I was actually thinking about that the other day, and I played with a lot of top players, to be fair, especially in that time at Everton. A lot of role models and all that type of thing. But the one person that stood out for me was Gareth Barry. He was just like, when he came to the club, he'd obviously won the Premier League with Man City. And like, I don't know, he was just unbelievable, his mentality. Never let anything faze him. There was times where the Everton fans, it can get a little bit heavy sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
The booing and all that type of thing, because they're just like pissed off about what's going on. And the guy would just want the ball no matter what. Whatever situation, he'd just say to you, Garbs, whenever you need me, I'm there. Little 5-10 yard pass, the angle was just right. You just look at him, you go, right, well, he's not the most athletic.
But he always had time.
But he always had time, and even if he was in like a 1v1 situation with a player that's 10 times faster than him, he would never get past him. And I was just like, how does this guy do it? You know what I mean? It's mad. Never give the ball away, and it was just never like flustered. He was just the same consistently all the time, and he was a great lad. So, yeah, for me, and obviously I've touched on Bainesy and Pienaar, but he was just the standout just because he'd had that winning mentality from Man City, winning the Premier League. And he was just someone that surprised me a lot.
I was going to ask you about worst
longevity as well.
Longevity, definitely. I was going to ask you about worst player, but I'll alter it slightly in case any professional embarrassment. Worst trainer, because you have an exceptionally good player, but then an absolute lazy get in the training pitch.
It's a tough one, really, because it was because training at Everton was ultra competitive, so you couldn't really get away with training shit. You know what I mean? But when I was in the youth team and that, sometimes the lads would get onto Duffy sometimes because he's just a bit of a dope, innit, you know what I mean? But he just have a few ricks every now and again. But the guy, to be fair to him, the ball was like a magnet to him. Every set piece, it was just heading it, and then I'll never forget. He'd played for Ireland and he nearly died because he had a like 25 stitches in his ribs or whatever. Like he punctured a lung or something in training. And like he'd done his rehab for like 2 months or whatever. First day back on the training pitch, like he just goes and throws himself at a ball. It goes straight into his rib where he had the op. And he was just like, yeah, that's sound. That's what I'm here to do, lads. And we were just like, whoa, this guy's like mad. Yeah. But like, yeah. So he was just one that stuck out to me because sometimes he'd have like a shit training session and all the lads get on to him and that, but he wasn't even asked. You know what I mean? Because he's gone on to have a great career. He's played in the Prem loads. Yeah. Good luck to him, like great lad. So yeah.
Obviously now you've moved on to Salford City, where you currently are with one of my good friends, Ryan Watson, who has been on the podcast as well. How's that then? How's that fared? You know, are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, I think obviously up to this point, it hasn't quite worked out for us in the league because there was high hopes for us this season. Obviously, they got to the playoffs last season, and with a little bit more investment or whatever this season, it felt like they could kick on. Listen, it's still kind of early days. Hopefully, if we have a good Christmas and stuff, that puts us in a good position. But yeah, on the whole, I'm enjoying it. It's an interesting experience. And hopefully we can have a positive season, but they're a great set of lads, and hopefully we can start pushing up the league.
Yeah, definitely. One last quick fire: Etu or Lukaku?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a no-brainer in terms of career, like.
Yeah.
But I'd obviously have to say, like, playing at Everton and what they did for the club is, I think Lukaku just shades it. But that'd be crazy for me to say in terms of player because he's nowhere near Etu's level. But Etu was coming to the end, let's face it. And obviously Lukaku was flying at the time. But obviously it was a privilege to play with both of them. But I'd just say, obviously on performances at Everton, I think Lukaku. Yeah, is it?
And there we have it, ladies and gents. What an absolute brilliant podcast. Thank you for Luke Garbutt for coming in, for sharing some amazing stories and also some powerful personal stories. So it really is much appreciated.
No, it is.
Thank you as always for tuning in. You know, the ladies and gents that, you know, the Patreon members here. We've done so much lately in regards to podcasts. We hope you are enjoying the content. We're continuously trying, and who knows, you might come on for round 2 in the future if you feel up for it.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it today, so it's been good. Yeah.
In the meantime, have a great week and up the toffees.